for the new technology and innovations. And our highly talented doyens came together to publish 6 books on various topics, which you can get them on the link shown on the screen, the second link shown on the screen. And we are active in social media platform, and we operate couple of blogs where our team shares very useful topics on Oracle related to Oracle. I request you all to follow us there. And let me take the privilege to introduce you today's presenters, Beth and Andy. Beth has over 4 decades of experience in the IT industry. She provided project management oversights for so many software implementations. Now she's working as a uh, national sales director for Enginatics to provide customer service and support for a software product called Blitz Report. And coming to Andy, he's an EBS specialist with over 2 decades of experience in the implementation projects across various industries. He's also a specialist for performance tuning and database optimization. Andy now works as a managing director of Enginatics. Enginatics was formed in 2010 and has grown to become a leading global technology company specializing in reporting and performance tuning for Oracle E-Business Suite. The company created the world's fastest EBS reporting solution called Blitz Report, which is used across the world under a wide range of industry sectors. And coming to the topic, the world's fastest reporting solution for EBS just got better. Andy and Beth are going to talk about how Blitz Report is a inexpensive, easy, and fast solution for EBS reporting. How Blitz Report delivers data directly to MS Excel in a true Excel format, and reports can be generated in minutes and executes in seconds. Andy and Beth are going to give us more insights into the topic. I would like to hand over the call to Beth. Over to you, Beth.
Thank you. It's a very nice introduction. I appreciate that, Andy, and I always
Thank you.
appreciate that. And let me just share my screen here
Sure.
for a second.
I'll stop presenting my screen.
Okay, we should be good here now. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Yes, it's not in presentation mode yet. It's still in PowerPoint mode.
Oh, sorry. So we're looking at the wrong screen. That's why I wanted to ask. So let me just do a different share. Go again. And so now you should see full screen mode. Is that correct?
Yes, it's now full screen. That's good.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, again, thanks all. We're so excited to be here today with our partner Doyensys and their Oracular's session content. So we're happy to be here to show and talk a little bit about our solution, Blitz Report, which is the fastest reporting solution for Oracle EBS users. And it's not just a reporting solution. I kind of sometimes like to call it the Swiss Army knife of solutions for Oracle EBS users, because it's not just for reports, it's for so much more. We're going to talk a little bit about these things. I've got a screen presented here. I can share this little slide with you afterwards if you're interested in some of our main bullet points. But we do provide the software as a free solution for any EBS user who wants to try it or who has a small platform and they really just need some easy reporting. Up to 30 reports you could use absolutely free with no limits on time frame or number of users. So we think that that's a really great way to introduce EBS users to this solution. For other users who have more reports than that, we still offer the free solution, but if you need more, we do a full 90-day proof of concept, so you can really try before you buy. You don't have to worry about purchasing something that isn't going to deliver what you expected or what your needs were for. So one of the nice things about our Blitz Report solution is it's really based on Oracle Forms technology, and we'll see this when we get into the actual product demo. But end users adapt to it very easily. There's no retraining necessary. They look at it, and many of our users think it's actually an Oracle product. It's part of standard Oracle EBS, where it is actually such a seamless integration with EBS. Another nice feature is that all of our reports export naturally to Microsoft Excel, and it's not a comma separated file or any kind of it's a true Excel file, and we'll see that the reports open instantly. So we've counted it saves about 15 mouse clicks every time you run a report. So in the end of the day for EBS users, that adds up to a lot more speed and agility to get answers that they need. We do integrate with Oracle's new enterprise command centers because a lot of our Oracle users are now looking for dashboards. Oracle's enterprise command centers are amazing. If you haven't looked at them, they're free with Oracle 12.2.5, I believe, and above. And so you don't have to pay for these dashboards anymore. So we integrate direct with those dashboards because with Oracle ECC, it's a secondary database, so there has to be a refresh. We actually tie directly to the EBS database, so you can get the information from the enterprise command centers, but you can get it in real time by using our Blitz Report integration. We also work with integrating to many third-party solutions so that we can replace Discover, all of those Discover workbooks and worksheets that you have. If you're trying to retire your Discover product, we can have an automated conversion program that will lift and shift that directly into Blitz Report so that you can keep all of your reports, but just retire that platform and use a much less expensive, much more agile platform in Blitz Report. We also integrate with or import from other applications like BI Publisher. Many of our users find that they have reports that have too much data, their BI Publisher is too slow. We can import those reports into Blitz Report, and we'll show you how we have unlimited data support. So if we have more than 1,048,000 records, which is one worksheet for Excel, we can actually roll that over to second, third, fourth worksheet and provide you with the volume of data you need in a speed that is second to none. So our system is incredibly fast. We also import from other third-party tools like Polaris or Reports Wand. If you've got some of those reporting tools that are coming to end of life or that are getting too expensive for your environment, we've all had to cut back a little bit this year with the circumstances. We can import those reports into Blitz Report. You can keep running your reports, just run them in a new platform. So there's all kinds of other features there. I'm not going to go into all the details. This is kind of how we're going to go through the presentation today. We'll start with EBS user functionality in the solution, and then we'll move to developer functionality. Again, I'll cover all of these points. I can send you these slides if you're interested. On the left-hand side, we're bragging a little bit about some of our customers, and we look forward to expanding that list with you. So that's it for the PowerPoint side. Let me get now into the actual product. And if you have questions, I will say that you can actually type your questions in the chat window, and we'll be monitoring that to answer your questions. Andy Hack is on the line with me. Andy is actually our managing director and kind of the mastermind behind Blitz Report. He's letting me step to the front this year, so I'll be doing the major part of the presentations, and he is here more for technical backup and technical support. If there are technical questions, please feel welcome to enter them in the chat, and Andy is here to help address those, anything I cannot address.
Yes, please.
You know, as salespeople, sometimes we just make up an answer, but Andy's here to make sure that we get the right one. So
Okay.
this is how the Blitz Report software looks in your environment. So you'll notice it's part of the Forms menu, which, as I said, that most users don't even realize it's not a standard Oracle product. So when I launch it, just double click to launch it. It opens Blitz Report. And when it opens Blitz Report, it's going to show me a list of reports that I, as a user, have access to. In the example we have now, we're using our online demo environment, which actually is available to any of you who may want to try it. But our online demo environment has all of our seeded reports, plus it has additional reports that we may be working on for future releases. And also we've imported all of the BI Publisher reports from Oracle into our demo environment. And we use these because many of our customers will come back and say, hey, I really like this report from Oracle, this BI Publisher report, but I wish it had these 7 columns, or I wish it had these parameters, or I wish I could do multi-org, or whatever the question is. So we'll use that report as a basis for developing a new Blitz report without having to start from zero, from scratch. So you can do that. So that's something our customers can do as well. So any of their BI Publisher reports, they can import into their environment, make modifications, make changes, make enhancements, and then use them. But I wanted to show you this. So usually when a user signs in, we leverage all of the Oracle security so that when you sign in, whatever reports you are allowed to have access to is what you will see in your list. And you can simply start typing, like if I'm looking for an AP supplier report, I can start typing AP suppliers. And as soon as I get to the SU and suppliers, it has filtered out to show me a list of the reports I may be interested in. And just as a first example, I'm going to pick this AP supplier report. This is what the screen looks like. You can select parameters if you wish, but up here is basically the name of the report, then the description. I have just one option here at this point. For end users, they would not see this setup button. So this setup button is there only because in my sign in, I'm signed in as a developer, so I see this button. This area would be just blank. It would not show the button even existed for most end users. So for most business users, they're going to see the name of the report, the description. They're going to have an option to run or add parameters. I want you to pay attention to this little button here in the middle, because when I hit the run key, this button is actually mirroring the activity in the concurrent manager, because all of our reports run through the standard concurrent manager. And when I hit run here, you'll see it goes to pending, then it goes to running, and then it goes to output. And as soon as the output is finished, it opens the report automatically in Excel. So instead of the 15 clicks that you need to do to run that report in standard Oracle, you can run it through Blitz Report with one click, and the report opens. So a little bit about the Excel itself. It is a true Excel. It's not a CSV file. Sometimes I say CVS because I get mixed with the pharmacy and the file, but it's not a CSV file. It's a true XLXS compressed file. So it's very small, very fast to download it from the database into your local drive. And we've optimized this so that when we present the data, our algorithms actually look at the data we're presenting. So every column is properly sized to accommodate the largest value that's going to be delivered in that report. So you don't have to worry about resizing any columns. They will be delivered to you in the proper size. We also deliver the data with the first line fixed and filtered, so you can start using it right away. You don't have to create filters. You don't have to create headings. That's going to be part of what we deliver to you. Another nice thing about the way the reports work is that because we're reading data directly from the EBS database, for example, in the supplier number. So the supplier number here is obviously a numeric field in a numeric value in a text field. So in many times when you import those through standard Oracle, it gets justified as a number, or it drops the leading zeros, all of those crazy things that happen. Because we're reading the attributes directly from the database, we know that that's a text value and we treat it as a text value. So you don't lose your leading zeros. You don't have any of that funny stuff that happens with numbers. And also in the same vein, we understand date fields. So when we import, when there's a date in a column in one of our reports, it is truly a date format, and you can use any of the date formatting in Excel. It will work perfectly directly out of the box. And again, I said earlier that there's no limit on the number of transactions. So we're a very, very good high level and transactional based reporting solution. If you have more than 1,038,000 records, I think that's the number, that the maximum worksheet size in Excel, it will simply open a second tab or a third tab or a fourth tab. So we've had some customers tell us that when they're trying to do their year-end audit and send their auditors all these transactional details, they have to run the report multiple times to get enough, to get all of the data into a worksheet. Well, with Blitz Report, that's a thing of the past, because you can run the one report for the year. It might take 3 or 4 minutes to run it and put it in Excel, but you'll get it all in Excel with multiple tabs. We always put the last tab on a report as kind of the parameters or audit tab. And that's kind of like a little trail of breadcrumbs of where this report came from. So you can see that the name of the report. So if you had this spreadsheet and you couldn't remember the report name that ran it, you can just go to the parameters tab. It'll tell you the name of the report that was run, the database it was run against, the date it was run, even the concurrent request ID. So if you need to go back through the concurrent manager to research this, see who ran it, or get some more information about that, you have access exactly to the request ID that ran this through the concurrent manager. And also we keep a copy of the SQL. Now, this is one of those things that in our parameter setup, if you have users that you don't want to send the SQL as part of the output, you can turn that off. But it's a really nice thing for anyone looking at this after the fact to see what SQL actually ran to run this, and also what operating unit or multiple operating units were run. So I'm just going to leave that worksheet open. I don't see any questions popping up, but as I said, please feel free and welcome to type questions into the chat box. I get kind of excited sometimes when I'm showing the software. I truly do love it, and sometimes I forget to look at the chat box, but we're having it monitored today. So in the very simplest form, that's what happens with Blitz Report. You pick a report and you run it. We've done a few other optimizations besides optimizing just the Excel output. We've optimized everything about Blitz Report. Everything in Blitz Report is a double click trigger. So you don't have to move your mouse over to get those 3 little dots. You can just do double click trigger to pop up a list of values at any point in time. Last time I popped up a list of values, I showed you our shortcut keys where I can type, for example, AP, and it starts searching out. And you see as I type supplier, it finds my AP suppliers report. We've actually made an even more interesting search, and that's, I can show you here. It's a Google-like search. So for some of our customers, we've heard things like, well, we have 17 reports that do 99% the same thing, but someone couldn't remember what the report name was, so we rewrote it. Or, so in that case, what we've done is added this Google-like search. So if you were looking for, a report with receiving transactions, for example, I can type that in this search box on this side and hit enter. The system will go out, it will look through all of my reports and find anything that has the word receiving transactions, either in the report name or in the report description or anywhere inside the SQL. So it could just be a column name on that report and it's still going to show up in this list. And if I scroll to the right, you'll see that it gives the report a rating based on where it found what I was looking for. So receiving transactions, it found it in the actual report name, so it gave it a high score here. It also found it in the report description and also in the SQL. So you can see all of these, it found it down in the SQL. So that's why it's showing me all of these reports. So again, the idea is we want to have fewer reports for the development team to have to maintain. So if we can give people the opportunity to find things easier based on certain keywords, they're more likely to be able to find the reports they're looking for and not end up duplicating reports for other purposes. So let me go back in there again. Just want to go back. Nope, wrong. Don't want to be in here. I want to be in here. So I just want to go back and show you one more thing about that AP suppliers report. So I'll pick this one again. So over here, we have multiple selection criteria. So you'll see here, I can double click in this field and pick a supplier name, or I can double click here and pick a supplier number. And I mean, this is something that's standard Oracle. One of the things that we've done to enhance this is we've added this multi-select. So if I turn on the multi-select, I can double click again in this field, and I could pick 2 different suppliers. So now when I run this report, again, it's going to go pending. It's going to show, it's much quicker this time because it's only 2 suppliers. It's going to show those 2 suppliers. Oh, there's the old report. Oops, came up on this screen for some reason. Let me just pull this up here. So it shows me my 2 suppliers, and you can see if you look at the filter, it just did pull for the 2 suppliers I requested. So it's very nice in that we've allowed this multi-select on every one of our parameters. So if you've got multiple organizations, multiple operating units, you can select multi and get some of those combined reports that are very, very difficult to get in standard Oracle. Now, again, this all follows Oracle security, so it's only going to let you have access to operating units that your security lets you have access to. It's not going to let you run for things that you don't have access to. A lot of that depends on how the reports are developed, whether the developers allow you to enter more than one operating unit. But again, these are things that our reporting solution will allow you to develop if that works inside your organization. So one last thing I want to show you while we're in here. This is the first report that I ran, the first supplier report. I'm going to do a copy a list of supplier numbers from this report. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to leave my multi turned on. I'm going to take these two out and go up here to my edit field and just Control V to paste. Oops. Control V to paste those numbers in. So you can see I've pasted all of those numbers into the. Oh, just make sure I'm in the right field here first. Yeah, sorry. I'm going to make sure I was in the right spot to paste them. To paste them in. When I hit OK, you'll notice it fills in that list of suppliers. Now, when I run this report, it's going to run it for that select list of suppliers. So if there are developers on the call, I'm not sure if they're what the people on the call's background is, but the ability to do this really makes a change in the development. I'll let Andy speak to that if that becomes a question, but you know, it changes from a where clause to an in clause automatically to make sure that it covers specifically. And if I look here at the suppliers, you can see it's picked the suppliers that I chose. So this is really a nice feature if you're trying to do things like GL analysis or any kind of account analysis where you need to copy the results from one spreadsheet and then run another report based on those results. And so it's very easy to do that with Blitz Report just by copying and pasting and rerunning the report. So we talked about the fact you can very easily find and select reports, you can run reports, you can look at the status, you could reprint a report just by clicking output again. It would pull that report back again for us and give us the output again. We can look at individual selections or we can do multi-selects. So another thing I want to talk to you about is on the options screen. So when you develop these reports, what we try to suggest is that we want to take some of the pressure off of the requests going to the developers so that they can focus their time on the major projects, not on rerunning reports. So we've added this options screen. So if you do a single click on the options screen, I can just create something called a template. And what the template does is it shows me all of the data that's available in this report. So the developer has maybe included 2 or 3 different tables and a lot of different columns from different tables. They can design this report to have a lot of data. And then end users can go in here. They can say, well, I want to hide everything. And I really just want the supplier name and the supplier number. And maybe I'm going to pick a few pieces of information down here. Sorry, I'm just going to click to pick a few different ones here. And I can select these. I can then say, well, you know, I really want the supplier number first above the supplier name, or I could say I want to put this this hold flag. I want it to go down at space 5. I can type it manually if I wish, and it will just move it down. So it's very easy to manipulate the data. Once a developer has created this report, end users can create as many templates or organizations of that data as they wish. Now, once I create a template, I have the ability to name it. Excuse me. So I'll go in here. So you see, I can name it whatever I choose. I can then choose for this to be a public or a global default. So the global default means every time somebody goes into the AP supplier report, this is going to be the template that's engaged by default. If I say it's public, it means that anyone who goes into the supplier report can look up for these templates and they can reuse my template if they find it of value to them. So marking it as public just says, I don't mind if someone else uses this template. When I mark it at public, they can use it, but they can never change it. The only person that can change it is either the person that created it or a developer who has authority above that person. So I'm just going to close this again just to show you that. So now this template is engaged. And when I run it, it's going to putting my, oh, it's good. It's coming back on the correct screen again. Not sure why it lost its mind. So now it's going to show us the data with just the data I requested.
Is that the previous one that you?
Yeah, that's still the previous one. Just a second here.
Because you still have copied the supplier number range. Sometimes required to press escape on the Excel to get out of the copying range thing. Yeah, but it's quick enough to run it again.
Yeah, no, it's opening on the, so just opening on the wrong screen. Not sure why, but anyway, so it's opening on my secondary screen. So here's the secondary report, the template I created from that primary report. So very easy to create templates, and again, that makes it simple for the users to get the data exactly the way they need it without having to go back to the developers every time to ask them for additional help. Also in this options screen, we have the ability to do other things, like we can email these reports. So if you needed to email it to someone, you can email it. Also, through the concurrent manager, we have access to all of the different delivery methods that are set up in the concurrent manager. So you can FTP it, or you can email it through there as well. But we have the option here to email the report. You do have a few choices in output format. Sometimes we have customers who want to use the Blitz report to create a bridge between EBS and some other third-party application, or maybe it's Microsoft Power BI. And so they're trying to get some sort of an output file. And because we can use the concurrent manager and schedule these reports, we can actually design these interfaces very, very quickly and very easily between EBS and other applications using Blitz Report. You'll notice either, getting a little more advanced here, but we can tell if we are sending it out to creating a file instead of Excel, we can send it to a certain apps node, a certain database node. We can actually even put a file pattern in here. So if you're trying to do things like capture the inventory value every day at the end of the day, you can have this report run and date itself so that, every day it creates a fresh copy without overriding the previous days. And then again, use all of those in some sort of an analytical tool like Microsoft Power BI or whatever your analytics tools are. So we've tried to think of all the ways that we can help you work with Blitz Report. Finally, the last thing in here is these post-processing. That was one of the choices that we had a client who wanted to be able to run Blitz Report, but instead of having an Excel or a text file output, they wanted to be able to put it in a PDF format. So there's a post-processing script that you can run there that will actually convert your Excel to a PDF. If you need to send it off in a PDF format that cannot be changed. Very last thing I want to tell you about for end users, we also have a button up here to put defaults in. So if I have a default parameter here, I'm just going to change this to report here. If I have a default, maybe this is kind of a bad choice here, but I may have a default in here. I can go to my actions and I can save parameter defaults. So when I sign back in with my user ID, this report is going to have the default set the way I wish it. If someone else runs this report, it would not have the same defaults. They could set their own defaults for that report. So if you're working with a specific operating unit or a specific group of operating units, you can actually set that for reports, save the defaults, and that will come up for you every time automatically without you having to choose it every time. Another really neat thing that I think about our reports, having looked at some of the Oracle ones, is we assume if you don't tell us what you want it all. So you don't have to go the A -- to Z 999 in order to get the whole range. If you are looking for all supplier types, if you leave it blank, you're going to get all supplier types. And these parameters can either be specific parameters, multi-parameters, or range of parameters. So we can also have parameters that are date parameters. That kind of covers everything related to the end user application. Again, we tried to make it very easy to find reports, to run reports, to select the exact data you need, and to get it out in the format that you need it. And then again, to store those parameters so the next time you run the report, you don't have to make those selections. Again, trying to make it fast and easy for our business users. I don't see any questions from the audience. So
there were actually questions already, how to assign the reports and more details on if we have formatting options. I just answered them in the chat basically already,
okay,
and that you will get
Andy.
to the report assignment soon.
Oh,
so that's what I mentioned.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, so that's again. So for developers in our profile setup, you set up users as developers or end users, or there's even a super user type developer that we can define. But if you're set up with one of those definitions, you'll see this setup button. If you're a basic business user, you don't have access to the setup button. But this setup button is really the heart of Blitz Report. It's here where you see, this is where we enter our SQL. So for our AP suppliers report, here's the SQL that's driving that report. Here's the parameters that are being engaged when we run that report. So it's asking us these parameters. This is where our where clause is, our LOVs, etc. We have assignments. This is where we assign this report to end users. So we can tell which users have access to this. I'm going to go through all of this in a little more detail, one screen at a time. Just want to kind of give a high level overview here. And then we have categories, and you'll see that we've got these toolkits in Blitz Report. So we have an operations toolkit, a setup and support toolkit. This report happens to belong to more than one toolkit. So these categories, you can actually create categories of your own as well and assign your reports. So if you've got like a month-end category and you want to have all of the reports that are applicable to the accounts payable month-end, you could do that so that you can very easily see all the reports that any accounts payable person should run at month-end. But these categories are really ways just to group reports together for sorting and searching. I'm going to go now and back to the SQL, and for the developers, if there are developers on the call, this is where you could actually can't type and talk at the same time, where you can actually create your SQL. So you can either write a SQL directly in here, you could write it in SQL Developer or Toad and paste it in here. If you import from other applications, which I was like BI Publisher or Reports Wand or Polaris, this is where your SQL will end up. We're going to look at that a little bit further down, but so I'm going to write a very simple SQL here. None of you are going to want to hire me as a programmer anytime soon. So a very simple SQL. What I want to draw your attention to is up here in the version in the upper right-hand corner. Notice when I'm writing a SQL, the version, there's no version control, there's no version number assigned to it yet. As soon as I write this SQL, I can run it. So again, try to make this super easy for the developers to do agile development. So they can write their SQL, they can run it. The system will automatically save it. I don't have to tell it I want to save it. It will show me the screen to ask if I have any parameters or to show me what the output is happening. So it's pending, then it's running, then it's open. It was so quick, it went directly to Excel. So here's my output, pretty simple. Again, perfectly formatted Excel spreadsheet with all of the things we talked about earlier set. But when I go back into my setup now, you'll notice now I have version 1 showing here. So once I've run the report once, the system automatically does version control. It's telling me what version it is, the date I created it, what user ID created it. It actually keeps a copy of the entire SQL in here so that if changes are made, you have an easy rollback to a previous version. And this is so that we can have some of our folks who want to do some agile development and do it right in production. Because we're a read-only solution, we have no way to change anything in the application. It is possible to do agile development directly in production if your policies allow you to do that. And because of that, we wanted to make it very easy to roll back, just in case somebody, there was an error or an issue that needed to be rolled back quickly. So we keep track of every SQL at every change. We also add comments here. So for change management, if you're interested in tracking who requested the SQL and what any changes that are requested, you can actually edit and log those changes directly with the SQL so that you have a full change management as well as a version control. And this is a big deal for us because we think that anyone who's running SQLs through Toad or SQL Developer, there's probably several versions of the same report in different developers' toolkits. If you put that toolkit in Blitz Report, as a corporation, you have all your corporate SQL IP in one place with full version control that you don't have to worry about ever again, which is the most recent version and who has the most current version, because Blitz Report looks after that for you. So very simply, very simple SQL. But the SQL supports everything that that SQL developer could support. So if you needed to do pivot tables or any kind of sophisticated development, you could do any of that through this option. this screen is the parameters, and here's where we set up our where clauses and our parameters for the end users to use. This is a very sophisticated screen, and I'm, as I said, I'm not a developer, but if I wanted to add a parameter to this report, this very sophisticated report I just wrote here, if I wanted to write a parameter, I can double click in this parameter field, and Blitz Report will show me all of the other reports that currently exist in Blitz Report and any parameters that have been used. So if I'm looking for a supplier type parameter, I can do a quick search for supplier, and then I can say, well, I want it by supplier name. So I can pick that parameter from another report, and Blitz Report will set it up properly for me within this report. You'll notice I picked one that was operating unit dependent. So this is going to make sure that the person can only access suppliers through the operating units they have access to. Again, I can add another one that's the supplier name. Maybe I want to go to supplier number. Here's another one with the supplier number. And now I've got supplier numbers in there. So you can write these where clauses as sophisticated or as simple as you wish. When you're a developer, obviously some of them can get very complicated. We also have the ability to have list of values. So there's standard fields, character, date, date, time, number, etc. But the list of values, we allow you to have 3 different types of list of values. The first one, list of values, is our Blitz Report list of values. We've created LOVs that we ship with the software. You can also do LOV Oracle, and the difference between our LOV and LOV Oracle is LOV Oracle does not allow you to change the LOV. So if I take, for example, this one is an LOV, which is a Blitz Report LOV. It's looking for the supplier number. If I look at the query, you'll see here now I could actually edit this query, which is something you can't do if you're using an Oracle standard LOV. So I could actually make changes in this query that would be effective for this report. But this LOV may be used in multiple reports. So we've actually added a little tip here. We can run, this runs a Blitz report. It shows me all of the different reports that are actually using this LOV. So before I change it here, I may want to consider the implications on these other reports. So again, a little bit of a help for developers so they can see if they're going to make a change where it might impact other reports. There's some other sophisticated things in here like validate from list and filter before display for extra large files. So again, for the developers, typically what we do with Blitz Report after this high level overview, if developers are interested in more specific developer related training, then Andy sets up what we call a tips and tricks session with those developers, and they can go into things like lexicals and bind variables and all those things that I know the terms of, but really mean nothing to me as a layman. We can also set default values here. So if we want to have a default value for any report, we can set it here. We saw earlier the users can set their own defaults when they run the report, but the developer can actually set defaults when they create the report as well. And like an Oracle standard, we can set on a required field here to make sure that this is something that we want the user to have to enter when they run the report. One of the things that we thought about was there's often a case where you want an either or logic in a report, and just having to be able to select one of these, one or the other as required, is not really what we want. We want to be able to select either one or the other. So we've added this advanced required option here. And when I go into this advanced option, it allows me to write any kind of a logical expression. So again, those of you who write SQL, you could write any kind of expression. I've seen Andy write them where there's like date restrictions for dates within, like 365 days, or, starting today from back 3 months, whatever kind of restrictions you might want to put on this report when your end users run it, you can create those expressions in here. For me as a non-developer, I can use this little tip, this little shortcut here. And if I click default at least parameter, the system will, Blitz Report will automatically write the code it needs to say, I must enter either a supplier or a supplier number or a supplier name. It won't let me run the report wide open. So it's telling it now I have to have one or the other. And I can even enter my own message text. So I can enter my own message text that I want to say to the end user when they run this report. So if I close this and now I try to run this report, and I try to run it wide open without selecting either, it's going to give me this message, hey, please enter one parameter. But you can see how you could use that advanced feature to really hone in on what you want to allow your users access to. Again, if you've got issues with performance, maybe you've got extra large data files and you don't want people running things wide open, you can use this advanced. And you notice it changed from the word required when it was empty to advanced to tell me that there is actually an advanced expression in here. So I'm just going to take that out. While we're in here, for developers, you also have the ability to change number formats on a report. So we've put the most popular Excel number formatting in here. This number format will apply to the entire report. There's also options up in the toolbar for us to assign different numeric formats to different columns in a report, down at the column level as opposed to the entire report level. So that's, I think, a good tour around parameters. Andy, anything that you'd like to add that I might have missed?
No, that was quite detailed. I'm just busy answering questions in the chat. There was one question which was related to the question if we could upload a set of parameter values from a file instead of copy and paste. I was thinking how that would work, but we have an API to answer this verbally. We have an API that we can use to run Blitz reports automatically, so programmatically, if that is the question, because multiple parameter values, if we run it through the front end, there's not much value in having an upload function because you could just copy it from an Excel file. And then I think Beth was showing how to copy and paste the multiple values into the parameter values. Yeah, there are more questions, but I'll probably answer them in the chat. If there are setup changes required on a database level, I think we can also expand on these after in the question session, and I keep on. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Andy. Okay, so the next tab over is assignments, and assignments allow you to tell which users can run this report. So we have an include exclude option, so it can be inclusive or exclusive. And the level, the request group is a standard Oracle security level. We found it wasn't quite flexible enough, so we've added multiple levels. So site level means that anyone on your site can run this report. So if you assign this at site level, any user who has access to Blitz Report can run this report. And one of the examples we use for that is the locked records management report. So that's part of our toolkit. As I said earlier, we provide about 270 seeded reports, so maybe it's more than that now, but it's approximately 270 seeded reports. And they include everything from all aspects of Oracle EBS, financial, GL, payables, receivables. It has fixed asset reports. There are reports for DBAs. There's performance analysis reports. There's SQL performance reports. There's all kinds of different reports from all aspects of the business, not just the financial side. I should mention the supply chain as well. And so one of these reports, this one, the block records, I've heard from other customers that when there's a block, users are sitting there, their screen's locked, they don't know who's blocking their session, they have to call the DBA has to do something, find out, unlock it, etc. So we've actually created this report that any user can run, and it will show them who else is in there locking the record. So they can just simply pick up a phone and call them and say, hey, can you get it there for a minute? I need to finish my payables entry or whatever the case may be. So that's an example of why you might sometimes want to use the site. Obviously, application, operating unit, request group, responsibility, user. So again, the example for the specific user is if you're maybe you're working with a developer to create a new report for your financial team or for your supply chain team. So the developer could assign that report specifically to me, so then I can run the report and test it. Nobody else will see it. It won't show up in their list. And when I give it approval, final approval to move on, then you can open this up and give it to more people. This last one I want to talk about is kind of interesting. It's something fairly new for us. We can now assign a Blitz report to an Oracle form. And let me just go out of here for 1 second. I'm just going to go back up here and get, sorry. It's telling me that, let me just delete this for a second and want to go back here. Headers and lines. So the orders, headers, and lines report is one that has a form already defined on it. So you can see here's the form name, and you can get that. I actually did this myself. We have instructions in our system on how to create this, how to assign this form to a report to one of the forms. And basically, you into Oracle, and you go into the help menu, and you find out exactly what the name of the form is. You fill it in here, and then over here, you can actually tell Blitz Report that not only do I want to have this report available on that form, but when I open that form, when I'm in that form and I run the report, I want you to automatically pass the order number and the customer number to that, so I don't have to retype it. So if I'm in there looking at a specific order, I already have the order number on the screen in my Oracle form. I already have the customer number on the screen. Pass that information to Blitz Report, so Blitz Report can run my order, headers, and line report for that report. So we think that was a pretty cool addition, because now not only is Blitz Report the world's fastest, but it's the world's easiest, because right from within Oracle, you can go to the zoom icon at the top of your form screen and run any report without ever leaving your standard Oracle form. So you don't have to come out to Blitz Report to run your reports. So very, very cool enhancement for us. And we think a very, very powerful one for business users. So then we come to the last categories. We talked about this. You can add your own categories. You can, I should check the time here. You can add your own categories. You can use our categories. The categories are important not only for sorting and filtering things. If you're importing and exporting reports, so maybe you designed a report in your dev environment and you want to move it to test. So you can export it from your dev environment and import it into your test environment. So report by report, very easy to do. I'll show you that on the tools menu. But the nice thing about categories is you can actually create a category for a specific project or a specific group of reports. You could assign all those reports to that category, and then you can simply export and import that category, and all of those reports assigned to that category will export and import as one large XML file. So categories have a few other uses. Andy, anything before I move on to the tools menu, anything else we should talk about from the developer side?
Yeah, there was I just answered in the chat about questions about the parameters, how dynamic it can be or how big it can be, because you used a very simple example where clause
where it's not quite so simple.
Yes, that
the
is
order,
more
headers, and lines.
Yeah, exactly. So the SQL text on the parameters can be completely flexible. We can even, so it can be a big subquery with, it's even a CLOP field. So because we have some reports which require a subquery which is larger than 4,000 characters. So that can be very dynamic. We can even use it to generate dynamically SQL text which is injected then into the main query, so that you could use the pivot operator in SQL, which requires hard-coded values in the column text. So it would take too long to explain all that, but we have a couple of examples that can show it. So it would be quite happy.
Maybe you just talk about this. The spaces. That's kind of an important thing.
Yeah, you can have even the same parameter if you need different where clauses. For example, the record where BES is just located, depending on the user value entered. So for example, if the user enters for the order type, if he enters the type order, you could use a different where clause in a SQL text than if he uses the order type quote. You see the second one is quote. So then we have a different where clause. OOHA transaction phase code equals N is used for quote. And for the type order, that's what you see in the matching value column, it uses then a different where clause. So it can be very, very dynamic. So we yet did not have any scenario that we could not cover with Blitz Report. And that's to make it more versatile, to cover in one report more business scenarios, so that you end up with less maintenance of reports.
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, Andy does these advanced classes with developers. And even after people have installed Blitz Report, we are very interested in what your questions or your concerns or your challenges are. So we are open, we provide full support. So when you have a question about, hey, even if it's a query, or even if it's a SQL type question, hey, can you do this, or how would you do that? We're very happy to give you our advice and point you in the direction on how we do that with Blitz Report. Okay, so then, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we reached the time for question session already, is it?
Let me just give a quick introduction here to the tool. So on the toolbar, then I'm finished. We have these imports. So this we talked about earlier, the import ability. We can import BI Publisher. We can import Discover. There's 2 different Discover imports. And if anyone here on the call is interested in Discover imports, let's put that in the question period as soon as I'm finished here, because Andy has a lot of depth of knowledge in that area. Enterprise Command Center. So I said we connect to the Enterprise Command Center. So we've used Oracle's own SQLs to run reports from the Enterprise Command Centers. The only difference is we're not using the replicated database. We're using the actual real live Oracle EBS database. So it's real-time data you're getting with Blitz Report, which is not what you're getting from ECC. Excel for Apps and Polaris Workbench. So all of those are simple imports. And then if you're looking at moving data between environments, you can see here we have also an export. You can export from one environment. You can copy reports so that if you have if we've shipped you a report, you like it, but you'd like something changed on it, you can copy our report, make your changes, and then it becomes your own. Blitz Report runs on a license key. We track how many users. You buy a certain number of users. We track how many users. You can check at any point in time by double clicking on this. What users are currently active, the last time they ran a report, number of reports, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to conclude my section of the presentation. Last comment I'll make is that Blitz Report is free for up to 30 users. If you want to try it, we'd encourage you to do that. Download it from our website. Our website is www.enginetics.com. To purchase licenses, if you need more than 30 reports, it's $10 US per user per month. So for as little as $1,200 per year, you can have 10 users using Blitz Report by the start of next month. It's a 30-minute installation, believe it or not. So I'm going to open the floor now, Andy, if you want to look at questions and provide some guidance there.
Yes, there were some questions. I was just starting to type, but I can answer it right now. It was a question about the integration of PL SQL code. So if we could execute PL SQL code, and the answer is yes, we integrate. We have the ability to execute, for example, before report trigger in the same way as Oracle Standard would do in BI Publisher or RDF reports. And so we use that, for example, when we import the BI Publisher reports from Oracle, or if we, for example, we have the AR 7 buckets balance report, which is a very complex receivables report. We have to convert it into Blitz Report because customers like that report in Excel format rather than text, and for that we need this PL SQL integration. So if you want to bring that up as an example, and then we would see that that one calls this one, yes. So if you now click on the options field, you would see that the database package is populated. Oh, and we see on this report, we see another feature. Now you see the SQL text is gray. First of all, here you see the database package. So that is the package where it calls the before report trigger. So we can do that, for example, to populate a global temporary table before SQL execution, which would contain then the data for the report. So that's how it would work. And also you see a feature here, if the SQL is bigger than 32,000 characters, it is grayed out because we also support larger SQLs than 32,000 characters. But we need to, need to use a small workaround to upload them into the Blitz Report tool, because Oracle e-business Suite standard does not allow more than 32,000 characters in forms fields, but we can also accommodate that with an upload functionality.
And I did forget to mention the multi-language feature, so that if you are in an environment where you're working with multi-languages, we do support, how many is it now, Andy, out of the box, 17?
I think we have 14, but actually on our test system, we just installed all of them, but we need to get the I think all of the 53, I think it's around 50 that Oracle supports, but we need to have our language translation done yet. So I think we will have that in the next release to support basically all languages that Oracle has. And there is one more question. Does the tool provide options for multiple worksheets in report output? Not yet. We have actually we have that in our development, but we did not merge it into the current code base yet because it's a bigger change. So we have the development ready to have multiple worksheets, and that will work in a way that we have on a SQL tab, we have the ability to switch from one SQL setup to multiple SQL setup. For example, you have on one, you have a little plus sign next to the SQL tab, and then you will have the output of each SQL put onto each different worksheet in the Excel then. But that is still, we need to merge the code into our current code base and do regression testing. So yeah, it will be out definitely in the next few months, but it still takes some time to finish that. More questions, or is there anything that I missed? Because I did not follow all the, I might not have answered all of them.
So the other thing I wanted to mention, just if there's no more questions right there, is that I talked about the financial reports. You know, this report that we have, the GL balance by account hierarchy, is a very popular report. And one of the things it lets us do is it lets us reevaluate, do revaluation in certain currencies. So, that's something, again, that many Oracle EBS users, if they've got different currencies they're working in, sometimes they want to see their financials in one currency. So they can compare apples and apples. And so this report allows us to do that. I'm just going to kick it off and run it here while Andy's maybe thinking if there are any other questions there, so it can run in the background.
Yeah, this is also a good showcase of the dynamic SQL execution capabilities, because it requires a lot of dynamic SQL execution. For example, you see the period parameter was set to March 2007. And what it does, you see at the top, you see the column names are going from January, February, March, and we use dynamic SQL functionality in Blitz Report to generate those column names dynamically depending on a parameter value. And yeah, so there's a lot more functionality. And there was one question regarding the installation and the performance, if it requires special, I answered it earlier already, so it doesn't require any special setup on the EBS to achieve good performance. We can just install it on your existing EBS environment without any database. You don't need to have special memory or anything like that, because it uses temp table space, so it's very light compared to other solutions. And that's why it's so quick, because we skip all the steps in between. So it doesn't write files on the server, anything like that. It really just generates the Excel file. That's it. So you don't have any additional storage requirements or anything like that. Okay.
So it looks like we're right up on the dot. And I think we want to just say thank you so much for inviting us today to show you Blitz Report. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new, and look forward to working with our partners Doyensis in the future.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Beth and Andy. Thank you for speaking to the team. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share all the details on the Blitz Report. We truly believe that we get benefited from the software Blitz Report. Thank you again for the time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.